She thought it was just her right, parking wherever she pleased, even in a garage that wasn't hers. But for the man who lived there, it wasn't just about a stolen space. It was about being told once again that in his own neighborhood, his rights didn't matter. What unfolded next would spark a confrontation so unsettling it left the entire community rethinking who truly belonged and who was being pushed out. Because sometimes the smallest act of arrogance reveals the deepest prejudice. And when the truth finally comes crashing down, no one can ignore it. The question is, how far will hate go when it hides behind a homeowners association and a smile? It was supposed to be a fresh start. Marcus had worked for years to finally afford a place in a quiet, gated community. The marble lobby, the polished elevators, the manicured lawns, it all seemed worth every sacrifice. To him, this neighborhood symbolized progress, a chance to breathe after years of scraping by. He parked carefully, greeted politely, and paid his dues like anyone else. Yet, despite all his efforts, some neighbors still looked at him as though he were trespassing on borrowed time. At first, he brushed it off, tight smiles, curt nods, the usual doubts he'd learned to live with. But beneath the surface, something was building. Because while Marcus thought he'd found a safe corner of the world, others had already decided he didn't quite belong. And it would take just one small act, someone else's arrogance, to shatter the illusion completely. Marcus noticed it first on a Tuesday evening, when he pulled into the underground garage after a long day. His headlights fell across the space neatly labeled with his number, except a white SUV already sat there, polished, unbothered, like it belonged. At first, he thought it must be a mistake. New neighbors, maybe? Someone parking temporarily? He circled the garage, parked farther away, and let it slide. But when it happened again, on the next night, and the night after that, his patience frayed. It wasn't just the inconvenience, it was the meaning behind it. He had signed the deed, paid the fees, followed the rules, and still, somehow, he was being pushed aside. Every time he walked past that garage, the SUV looked less like a car and more like a statement. You don't count here. Not really. Thigh. Tension boiled over the day he decided to wait. Marcus left work early, stationed his own car discreetly in another corner of the lot, and watched. Minutes turned to an hour. Then, casually, a woman in her 50s, crisp cardigan over her shoulders, strode down the ramp. Without so much as a glance around, she clicked her keys, strutted to Marcus's space, and slid her SUV inside. The entitled swagger told him this wasn't a mistake. She knew exactly what she was doing. Still, Marcus approached carefully, voice steady, posture calm. He asked if perhaps she'd confused her space with his. Her eyes narrowed, her lips curled into a tight smile that wasn't a smile at all. She told him the spot wasn't really his. He should be grateful just to live there. Others had been whispering, she added, about whether he fit the standards of the community. With every word, the chill of her voice cut deeper than the echo of any car horn. It wasn't about a garage space at all. From then on, the harassment worsened. Notes appeared under his door. You don't belong. The HOA, which should have been neutral, suddenly questioned his compliance, nitpicking his doormat, his plants, even the way he parked when he avoided the stolen space. Neighbors began to look through him instead of at him. Where once there were polite nods, now there was silence. Heavy, deliberate silence. Marcus kept records, photographs of her SUV in his spot, dates and times logged, hoping reason would matter. But when he presented the evidence to the HOA, they shrugged, suggesting that perhaps he had misunderstood. The woman, they said, was a valued member of the board. His words against hers, his receipts against her status. It was a battle he seemed destined to lose. Still, he refused to give in. That garage space wasn't just concrete and paint. It was proof that his name, his investment, his existence carried equal weight. And yet, every visit, every smirk from her, every folded arm stare from the board members reminded him that equality on paper meant nothing when prejudice lived in practice. The pressure mounted. Legal threats from her side. Whisper. Campaigns among neighbors. Cold shoulders in the lobby. Marcus's once sanctuary now felt like enemy territory. He was boxed in by walls of marble and disdain, his resolve tested every time he turned the corner into that garage. And just when he thought they couldn't push further, when he thought the worst they could do was steal his space, she and the board made a move that turned an insult into open war. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday night. Marcus returned home, umbrella dripping, shoulders heavy, only to find a bright orange notice taped across his front door. The message was blunt, a formal violation. According to the HOA, if he continued his unauthorized use of community property, his access to the garage would be revoked entirely. His own space, purchased, paid for, documented, was now being stripped away as if it never belonged to him. Fury burned in his chest, but what cut deeper was humiliation. He had anticipated retaliation, but never imagined they would twist the rules so brazenly against him. And when he confronted the board that weekend, they didn't just dismiss him. They surrounded him. 3 members seated high on polished chairs, the woman smirking from her SUV keys dangling between manicured fingers. They accused him loudly, publicly, in front of neighbors who lingered in the lobby pretending not to watch. Words like aggressive, unfit, doesn't understand the rules rang out, each one thrust like a weapon. Marcus tried to stay composed, documents in hand, every detail logged to prove what he endured. But no matter how carefully he presented his case, their eyes glazed over, already decided. He wasn't speaking as a homeowner in equal standing. He was being placed on trial for daring to claim the right to belong. In that moment, he saw it clearly. The garage was never the issue. The issue was him. The humiliation swelled into something heavier, something suffocating. He could see neighbors whispering along the edge, shaking their heads, letting the seed of troublemaker root itself deeper. Every glance, every tightened jaw reinforced the dangerous lie they whispered, that Marcus wasn't a neighbor, but an outsider, intruding where he did not belong. And as he stood there, silenced by the weight of their prejudice, one chilling thought echoed in his mind. If they could erase his ownership with paper and whispers, what else could they take from him? Marcus didn't win the HOA battle in the way he had hoped. The board never admitted fault, never apologized, and never gave him the respect his documents made undeniable. But he refused to disappear quietly. With every incident recorded and every slight documented, Marcus eventually took his case beyond their polished lobby, to legal channels, to city housing authorities, and to anyone willing to listen. And while the fight was draining, every step revealed something bigger. This was never about a parking spot. It was about how easily power can be twisted to exclude, and how the quiet machinery of racism often hides behind policies, paperwork, and polite smiles. For Marcus, the experience left scars that no legal outcome could erase. Each walk through, the lobby still carried the weight of those stares, the whispered labels, the cold judgment that told him he wasn't wanted. But it also transformed him. He became more than just a homeowner defending his rights. He became a witness to a truth, far too common. He realized his story was one more thread in a tapestry of indignities faced by countless others who fight not for privilege, but for something much simpler, the right to exist with dignity where they belong. The impact rippled beyond the garage, beyond the HOA, beyond this single neighborhood. Because when entire systems look the other way, when arrogance disguises itself as authority, the question becomes larger than one man's space. It becomes a question about all of ours. How many more doors need violations taped across them before we admit what's really being policed isn't the rules, but the people themselves?